Hello, my name is Ganesh. I'm a technical architect with Mastech, and in this video, I'm going to show you how to create a mobile application in under 20 minutes using nothing but your browser. So let's jump right in. We will be using Aperi.io. This is a cloud-based mobile app development platform. So point your browser to Aperi.io and sign up at their website. You will receive your login ID. Using your login ID and password, you can log into your to their website. Great. So once logged in, you can click on the Create New App button. The app, the mobile app that we will be developing is a simple weather app. So we'll name our app appropriately. During the initial project creation, it is a little time consuming. So in this mobile app that we'll be developing, we'll just have a simple text box containing wherein user can enter a city name, and then he'll click on a button and he will get weather details related to that city or that place. It's as simple as that. What I'm trying to emphasize is how easy it is to create such a mobile app entirely in a cloud-based environment without requiring any kind of ID, etc. So we'll just wait for the project to load. There you go. So the project is up. Yeah. So as you can see on the left hand side, there's a tree-like structure which contains the project. The project node contains the app settings. We'll come back to these app settings a bit later. Meanwhile, there's also pages. The default app has already created a start screen for us, which we can readily start using. But what we'll be doing is, in order to start out with the app, first the mobile app will require a backend. This backend will typically be a RESTful service, which will just can be invoked in the form of a URL, and it will return back weather details in the form of a JSON object. So for this particular RESTful service, I have chosen World Weather Online, this particular website which provides REST information related to weather. So I have a ready-made URL that you can see right here. So we'll be using this particular service. What I'll do is I've already registered at this worldweatheronline.com, and they have provided me with a app ID. I'll be using this URL, and I'll just go to the browser and paste out this URL. The city that I've chosen currently is Woodbridge, New Jersey. As you can see, the World Weather Online service returns back a JSON object containing weather data for the for the future 5 days. And this is the service that we'll be using in our mobile app. Yeah, so let's take a closer look at that URL. This is the basic URL that we have. Yeah, and these are the four query parameters. The first query parameter is queue, then format, number of days, and finally a key parameter, which is nothing but the app ID, which I got back from the World Weather Online service when I registered my application with them. Okay, so let's go back to our mobile app development environment. Here, instead of starting out with the user interface, we'll start out with the services. So let's create a new service. Yeah, so let's just do that. Instead of calling it REST service, we'll call it more appropriately weather service. Yeah, you can just accept the defaults as they are. Yeah, now this weather service will ask us for a URL. This URL will specify as the basic URL of the backend weather online service. I'll just copy the base URL, come back here and paste this in. Yeah. Then there's a method, of course, we'll be invoking the get method. The data type we can choose as JSON-P just to be on the safer side. Um, I want to explain the difference between JSON and JSON-P. For the time being, just accept that JSON-P is probably a better choice. So let's go with that. So there goes the URL. We'll now go to the request tab. Herein, we need to specify the 4 request parameters that go into the URL. So I think the first parameter, if you remember, it was just a queue. Let's add that parameter. The second parameter was format. The third was num underscore off underscore days. So let's take these 2 parameters as well. Yeah. So we'll add one more parameter called format, and its value is JSON. The third parameter is num underscore off underscore days, and its value will put it as 5. And the final parameter, which is key, its value will put in as the app ID that I got back from when I registered at the World Weather Online service. Great. So I've put in these 4 parameters. There's a reason why I have not put in the default value for the queue parameter. You'll soon realize that. For the time being, let's move on to the response phase. As you can see on the response tab, we have a button called automatically create from sample response. We'll be using exactly this. So it asks me for a sample response. I'll go back to the browser and catch hold of this little output JSON that I had received in the browser from the Weather Online service. I'll come back and I'll paste this right in. Yeah. After I paste this in, I'll just click the button which says, generator service response. Yeah, there you go. Automatically create from sample response. And it says service response created successfully. I'll go ahead and close this. Now the service response that was created is in the form of this hierarchical tree. Yeah, these are the nodes in the JSON object that will be returned back to us as a response. We are most interested in this weather sub object, you can say. So this weather sub object actually contains the weather for 5 days. So it is the weather is actually an array of size 5, and each element in that array or an object in that array contains all these things: temperature min in Celsius, Fahrenheit, um, the weather description, the weather URL, the weather code, all this kind of information about each of the 5 days. So we'll be using this. Yeah. Before we move further, we'll just test out if this service that we just created, weather service that we created in the mobile app development environment, is this valid? Can we test it? So let's go ahead and do that. Yeah, it asked me that the queue parameter that I had conveniently missed out. What about that? So I'll just enter the queue parameter. Uh, just as a sample, I'll enter Woodbridge, New Jersey, and let's try it out. I'll test it out. So it's actually sending a request, and there you go. It sent back a response. As you can see, the weather object or the sub object in the response actually contains a date and various information about that particular day. So this is exactly what we're looking for, the weather information for 5 consecutive days. Yeah. So we are all set then. We have the service all configured. We have tested it. It's returning back the correct response as we would expect. Now is the time to start building our user interface and finally kind of connect the user interface to this service that we just developed. So let's go over to the start screen now. Just double click on the start screen. It'll open up the screen. Since this was a default screen provided to us, yeah, it has some kind of a generic user interface. We'll start changing that right away. So let's click on the caption and we can call it weather app. Yeah. Now, our app will typically have, let's say, an input text box, a button, and a list to enlist the 5 days of the, weather forecast. So I'll go ahead and do just that. First thing I'll grab a input widget, which is similar to a text box. I'll just drag it over and put that in. Now this input that you see is the default text. We'll change that to something that we already tried out in the test. I'll have this out as Woodbridge, New Jersey. Great. So this is a text box with some default value. Now I'd like a button in there. Yeah, so I'll do just that. I'll grab a button and drop it below the text box. The caption of the button I'll rename to something like get weather. Yeah, which is quite intuitive. The next thing I want is I want to be able to display the the details about the 5 days of weather in a list format. So I'm going to need I need a list. I'll do just that. I'll grab a list and put it right there. Yeah. Now this list is showing me 3 items. I don't really need all of them, so I'll probably just delete one of them. There you go. So I'll just delete item number 2 and so also item number 3. So all I have is single item, and in this single item, I will typically put in all the information that I need. I'll show you how exactly to do that. So I'll put in a grid first into that item so that it can be better formatted, the exact information that I want. So I'll put a grid inside the item. I want this grid to just contain a single row and 2 columns. So I'll go ahead and do that. Now the grid has a single row and 2 columns. In the first column, I will put an image. So I'll just grab an image and drag it into the first column. That's the image. In the second column, I'm going to be putting in 4 labels. So let me get those labels. Yeah, this is the first label. This is the second label. This is label number 3. And finally, label number 4. Let's name these elements because these elements are finally going to display some information from the service. Yeah, so it's always better to name these elements so that we are able to map these elements to the relevant response that we receive from the service. So I'll first select the image. I'll name this image as IMG weather. Okay. Next thing, I'll select the first label. Let's say in this label we'll display the date that the weather forecast is relevant for. So we'll call this label with the name LBL date. Great. The second label we will display the minimum temperature. So let's call this LBL min temp. Okay. The third label will display the maximum temperature. So let's call it LBL max temp. And finally, the fourth label, we will display the description of the weather. It is sunny or cloudy, things like that. That kind of a textual description. So let's call this LBL description. Okay, great. So far so good. We have five major elements. One is the image and four labels in which we want to display data that is got back from the response of the RESTful service. Okay, so let's save off the app and proceed to the next step. So let's recap. So far, we have created a service which is like a wrapper over a REST service. Uh, this particular wrapper service has a request and a response. As step number two, we have created a user interface with the relevant UI widgets. And step number three, we will be mapping the response and the request of the service with the UI widgets. So let's go ahead and do that. On the UI screen itself, we were currently in a tab called a design tab. Let's move over to the data tab. So in the data tab, we will actually specify what data is bound to or is displayed in the user interfaces. For that, we need to add a data source. Let's select a service as a data source, and it will display to me all the available services. Currently, we have just one service that we just created, weather service. So it shows up in the drop down. Just select that weather service and say add. Yeah. This data source will also require a name. Let's name it weather service data source, right? So weather service data source is the data source, and weather service is the actual service, which is a wrapper over the REST service. After this, just go over and say edit mapping. As you might have guessed, this mapping is actually a mapping between the service request responses and the user interface widgets. So let's go ahead and see how that user interface looks. This user interface really is, where all the magic happens. So pay attention to this one. So in the mapping details screen, you will see a request tab and a response tab. Okay. Uh, right now I'm on the request tab. On the right hand side, you can see the screen components in the form of a hierarchical tree. So you can see a start screen as the base, then there is a mobile text input, then there is a mobile button, and finally a mobile list. Yeah, the mobile list itself has an item, and the item has the various, the grid and the various four labels and images that we named on the form. All those you can see as a part of the on the right hand side the hierarchical tree of user interface widgets. Yeah. Uh, Now let's come back to the request. Here, the on the screen the input text box, right, in which we had typed out Woodbridge, New Jersey. That input text box is actually going to contain the name of the city, which is going to get bound to the queue parameter in our RESTful service. Right, means whatever we enter in the text field is should actually go out as a query parameter to the REST service. So this can be easily achieved by just dragging the text property that you see here, mobile text input to this text property. I'll just drag it on into the queue, and using that arrow notation, this mapping is established. That's all that you need to do. This is enough to tell the software that whatever we type in the text box is automatically bound to the query parameter queue. That's all that we need. The other parameters like the number of days, the format, and the key, those can be hard coded. That's not a problem. We just want to be able to parameterize the name of the city that goes into the REST query. Okay. Now let's come back to the response. The response, there's a lot more mapping that will be required. When you kind of drill down on the response data, you can again see there's the same response uh, that we kind of modeled uh, as a part of the weather service. If you remember, just to jog your memory, this is the response that we got echoed back, and this was a response tree that we had seen back then. So the same response tree is seen now in the UI screen as a part of the data mapping tab, right? So the same things are seen here. Now all we need to do is map the response object, or rather the sub objects from the JSON response onto the user interface widgets. For example, in our interface, there is an image weather, right? If you remember, IMG weather was the name of the image that we had put in. So in the response, there's a weather icon URL that comes up. All we need to do is kind of map the value of this weather icon URL to our IMG weather, image weather. So that's what I do. I just map it onto the image weather. Yeah, yeah. But before we even move on to this, if you remember, the weather response was the weather part of the response was really an array, and we need to map this array to the list item. So first, I'll go ahead and do that. This also is not very difficult to explain or imagine. The weather element in the response contains contains an array of 5 objects, right, for the 5 days, and we want for each weather day uh, a new list item to be created. So that's the reason we map the weather element, which is an array, to the mobile list item element. This tells the user interface that create 5 or however many instances of the list item and display it. Yeah. So under the overall node of weather and the mobile list item mapping, we will map all the remaining elements. For example, we want the let's say this minimum temperature in Celsius. We want it mapped to the LBL min temp. So that's what I'll do. I'll drag the min temperature min C onto the LBL min temp. Similarly, I'll drag the uh, temperature max C onto the LBL max temp. And you can see the mappings are getting created. Yeah. Finally, there's a label description that I would need. So that is the weather description element in the response. I map this weather description to the label description. Yeah. So I've mapped the min temperature. I've mapped the max temperature. One thing remaining is the date. So what I'll do is the remaining date I'll map. I'll just drag this date onto the LBL date. So effectively, what I'm doing is mapping. On the left hand side, I have a JSON objects that are coming in the response, and on the right hand side, I have the user interface widgets. I just map the JSON object responses to the user interface widgets. That's about it. It's as simple as that. But if you see, there's no coding involved. It's just drag and drop, just mapping. That's all. Okay. So that's about it. We just do this kind of a mapping. Let's save everything for good measure. And let's come back to our screen, this time in the design mode rather than the data mode, since we are all done with the data mapping. Yeah, so let's come back to the design mode. Now, when the mobile app is kind of instantiated or it starts up, the weather app, this start screen will be shown. And what we want really to do is when the button called get weather is clicked, that's when the service should get invoked, the backend service. It should fetch the data and it should fill up the widgets on the user interface. So basically, what we want to do is all this action needs to get triggered with the click of a button, namely the get weather button. So this is the event that we'll be adding. We'll choose this get weather button, yeah, and we'll go to the events that you see here, yeah. So this is for the mobile button. The event is click. I can just as well make it as tap. There's a good number of events that are available. So you have the tap event, tap hold event, These kind of touch-based events are also there, as well as a click event is there. Currently, I'll just choose the click event. And as part of the action, I can choose invoke service. There are a variety of actions here too. You can even choose to run an arbitrary JavaScript here, and inside the JavaScript you can do a number of things. But for the time being, for this purpose of this demo, I'll be choosing invoke service. When I choose invoke service, it will show me a list of data sources. Currently, we have just a single data source that we have created, weather service data source. So I'll choose that one. Yeah. And once I do that, I'll say add event. So an event has got registered for a click of a mouse. And what will happen on the action that will happen on that event is the service called weather service will get invoked. Once the service get invoked and the response is gotten back, uh, all the various values in the JSON object will automatically get mapped to the user interface uh, widgets, and we should be able to see the data uh, inside the widget. So I think we are done with all this. So if you realize, we have done four major things to quickly summarize. First is we created a weather service, which is a wrapper over a REST service. Secondly, we went and created a kind of a user interface. Yeah. Um, Thirdly, we went ahead and created a mapping between the responses of the weather service and the user interface widgets. And fourth thing, what we did is we kind of created an event handler or an event and associated that with the invocation of the weather service. So these are the four things that we did, and let's see the effect now. We'll just save the app. After the app is successfully saved, if you see this test button, we'll go ahead and click the test button. This is opening up another tab in the browser. Yeah, there. And when we press the test button, there's a simulated test that is run in the browser itself, and we'll be able to see our app running as if it were running on a mobile phone. So the start screen that we created, we should be able to see it rendered here correctly. The screen should have a little text box. Yes, it does. And a little get weather button. In the text box, the default value that we have specified, Woodbridge, New Jersey, that has come entered. Now all we need to do is click this button, and our service should get invoked, and we should see a list of weather details. Let's see that. So just click the button, and there you go. So you can see a little image. This is being fetched from the backend weather service. So what it's saying is on the 7th of March, it's going to be cloudy. The minimum temperature is -3 and the maximum is 6 degrees Celsius. Similarly, on the 8th of March, it's going to be sunny and so on. So for the next 5 days, we are getting a little URL, yeah, of the weather, and the date, the minimum temperature, max temperature, and status, textual status of the weather. All this can easily be gotten. This is what typically mobile applications do. They have a small user interface, and on the click of a button or a tap of a button, they give a RESTful service call, invoke a RESTful service, and get back the response, and show that response in a very nicely formatted manner on the user interface. We were able to achieve exactly the same thing. But as you see, we were able to achieve all this uh, using not a single line of code. I've never coded in the last 15-20 minutes, right? It was just mapping and using a wizard, things like that. So this is the beauty of this. With minimal amount of code, you can actually write really snappy and really short and succinct kind of mobile apps. Of course, this mobile app was kind of very simple, uh, but there are various other things like navigations, multiple screens. So we can very well have that. You can create a new screen. You can navigate from one screen to another. You can use local storage, HTML5 local storage, in order to pass data from one screen to another. Yeah, you can get and set the value of any element on the screen using traditional JavaScript APIs. And this Java, such a kind of JavaScript can be embedded against any event handler. uh, Plus there are things like security, things like OAuth 2. Yeah, so all these things are very much possible in this platform, though this is a little bit beyond the scope of the simple beginner's tutorial. But rest assured that all these kind of complex things, including integration with payment gateways, all these kind of things are very much available in Aperi.io. And getting started or getting a jump start into making a mobile application is extremely easy using this platform. So that's what I wanted to point out. Yeah, and now the icing on the cake. After we are done with all this, creating an app and then testing it in a simulated environment, what I can do is just go onto this export menu, and as you can see, I can export out this app in a variety of formats, including if I wanted to deploy the app on an Android phone, I can just, export out the app as an APK. If I wanted to deploy this same app on a iOS phone, I can export it this in the appropriate format. So this kind of export is possible. If, for instance, on an Android, I can just say export as a APK. It'll take some time, maybe 4 to 5 minutes, to bundle up the entire application and then create an APK and download it to your local hard disk. Once you get the APK, you can very well install it immediately on an Android phone that you have, if you have a cable handy, and you can see the exact same app on your mobile device just like that. So within 20 minutes, you can actually not only code the app but also see it working perfectly on your own mobile phone. It's as easy as that. Yeah. So that is one thing kind of I wanted to emphasize. Um, and yeah, one more very important thing is, as you saw, this entire development of the mobile application, I was able to do it entirely in the browser. There is no Eclipse or any complicated IDs that typically, you know kind of hardcore developers use. Yeah, even my grandmother can kind of just fire up her browser and start with mobile app development. There's absolutely no problem. There's no great IDs that are required. The only thing that you require to build the app is a simple browser, which I think every laptop or desktop in the world can very well have. And this means that I can start off developing this app on one particular machine, let's say an office desktop, and then go back home in the evening and complete the remainder of the development of the mobile app on my home PC's browser. Nothing stops me from doing that. So that is really the power of being able to develop in the cloud, and kind of, yeah, I can code anywhere, anytime, and so that's one more additional benefit of using a cloud platform like Aperi.io. Okay, so that's all that I had to say. Uh, After this tutorial, you should be able to kind of get started with Aperi, go through its documentation, and keep on creating more complicated and more advanced mobile apps. I hope this little video has kind of really turned up your appetite for developing mobile apps. And thanks a lot, and thanks for watching the video.